Peter Franklin is the Gabby Cabby in New York City. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning, morning. Not a very cheery story, that's for sure.
It is not. And what are you hearing anything? I mean, immediately I'm beginning to hear sabotage right off the bat yesterday, but I don't think there's any evidence to prove that.
Nah, that's just Looney Tunes. No, it's a big topic of conversation in the back of the cab because most people go under the assumption, and I guess it's rightly so, that, traveling by train, that's okay. You only have to worry about your plane falling out of the sky. So this kind of reminds everybody that just stepping out of your door in the morning after you've had your Cheerios is asking for trouble. But the big topic of conversation in New York City is the Jewish family in Sheepshead Bay in Brooklyn, which is a very, very big Jewish area where the entire family, or most of the entire family, was wiped out because the menorah, remember this is Hanukkah now, somehow they say set fire to the curtains and one thing led to another, and so that most of the family was wiped out. So that's really the bigger topic of conversation, only because it's more local.
Yeah, and it's a terrible story when you think about it. Let's see here. New Yorkers have a fairly well-known bad rap for being angry and aggressive. But what happens when you put a New Yorker behind the wheel? What happens?
Well, supposedly, everybody loves to do a survey about New York City. So, of course, the survey is that we're mean, horrible, terrible drivers, especially the cab drivers. It's really not true. It really isn't. It's a bum rap. I think most New Yorkers are pretty good about it. As a matter of fact, we always like to say that in California they shoot you. In New York we give you the finger. So our motorists are really not as bad as they can be. It could be, but they're certainly not. So it's safe to come here. I don't suggest you drive here, but we're not bad people here, really.
President Trump putting himself once more at the center of a sexual harassment debate. What did he do here?
Well, I mean, I love to remind people that before he got involved in politics, he was a very popular New Yorker who was very involved with a lot of good things and stuff like that. It was only once he got involved in politics did we start to hear everything about him that's supposedly bad, and of course it continues and continues. But still, basically, most New Yorkers will tell you they like him. They really do, except you're not going to say that. Because if you say that, you're going to end up in an argument and a fight. Like, for instance, I wouldn't dream of picking up somebody at Kennedy Airport and say, gee, what do you think about Trump? Isn't he great? Well, I could get my tip, that's for sure.
Yeah. I want to ask you, there's a story about Colin Kapernick, who is looking to potentially buy an NFL team. Can you believe that?
Yeah, well, it is, and you're probably going to refer now to the prison story.
Yeah, he was at Rikers, right?
Oh, and man, it is so outrageous. I mean, I don't know who dreamt up with that idea, but the correction officers, and you call them that, you don't call them guards, are fit to be tied because somebody invited Colin to come and talk to the prisoners, which gives him a certain degree of legitimacy. So I don't know what the Correction Officers Benevolent Association is going to do about it, but there's enough unrest at Rikers before having Big Mouth come here and start some trouble.
Well, I just don't understand why you would have, in any situation, any controversial figure come into a prison. I mean, I just feel like that would be inspiration for something that could be potentially bad.
And of all places, Rikers. I mean, Rikers comes from a George Raft, Edward G. Robertson movie. It is a terrible, terrible place to be a prisoner or to be a correction officer there. There isn't a day that goes by that somebody isn't getting beaten up or killed or stabbed or what have you. These are not people that are there for lack of child support or something like that. These are really bad people. Hey, that's why it's on an island.
I want to ask you, on when that bombing happened last week and the subway system, when that happens, do you end up getting a lot of people that automatically say, I'm not taking the subway now, I'm taking a cab? Do cab usage really, does it increase when stuff like that happens?
No, I don't think. And I think overall the tourist business of New York City doesn't get hurt because most people have come to live with it. The big topic of conversation is I remember distinctly when 9/11 happened, there was a lot of chatter about who would have believed that a third person could fly a plane into a building. It was such a new thing. Yeah. Well, same thing. Nobody in the world had ever even brought up the subject that somebody could drive a car onto a bike path and intentionally start mowing people down.
Yeah. Right.
And by the way, what they've done, they've put cement blocks all throughout it right now so that you can still get the bicycles on the bike path, but you certainly can't get a vehicle.
And they're big, they're like big, gigantic concrete blocks. They're huge. That are supposed to be able to...
But if you go by there, and next time you're in New York you might, you'll see people just riding along. I mean, well, it happened, it happened. Yeah. Within, by the way, the shadow of the new World Trade Center, because that's the area where the loony did it.
I want to ask you on this really interesting story. There's a couple in Manhattan. They're suing a Manhattan hotel because during their daughter's bat mitzvah party, they starved the guests. What happened here? You familiar with the story?
The story is that they paid $37,000 for a bat mitzvah.
Yeah.
That's the equivalent of a bar mitzvah, which would be for a boy. The bat mitzvah would be for a girl.
Yeah.
And the first thing that struck my eye was $37,000 they spent.
That's a lot of money.
It's nice to love your kid, but wow.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're now complaining that the hotel didn't serve them enough food. Seems to me for $37,000 you ought to get enough food to eat. So they want their money back. They say there wasn't enough hors d'oeuvres or steak or scallops or what have you.
If you spend $37,000, though, it ought to be like all you can eat.
Yeah.
We're going to give you whatever you want. But again, you're going to a place that's kind of posh. And, the rules might be a little bit different there. The prices are going to be a little higher.
Yeah. Have you ever thought of having a bar mitzvah?
I've been thinking about it, yeah.
Why don't we do it? We'll do it as a fundraiser. We'll collect $37,000.
Let me tell you.
He's already been roasted, Peter. So.
Those kids make some dough, Peter. They make some money. There's no doubt about it.
Today I am a fountain pen.
All right, Peter, in New York City, it is still the place. We talked about this when that bombing went off. By the way, do you have any thoughts on this? This is the first suicide bomber to successfully set off an explosion in New York City. That, to me, is a little scary.
Yeah, well, and we don't know what's lurking in the windows either.
Right,
so,
right.
Who knows?
I have no idea.
I don't want to discourage anybody from coming here, not because I'm a member of the tourist board, but, in the total scope of the thing, there's 10 million people in New York, 30 million people in the greater New York City area. You're going to get loonies. That's the way of the world.
And I got to tell you, we had the TV on, and while the whole story is going down on just a little bit away, just a short trip away from NBC, while all this is going down, people are still smiling and waving with their signs outside the Today Show.
Yeah, well, as they say, life goes on.
Life goes on. All right, Peter, best tour in New York City. It'd be an awesome tour to take, and we're even working on maybe doing a tour that we'd use a bus and bring down some listeners in 2018.
Fantastic idea.
All right, Peter, thank you, man. We appreciate it.
Bye-bye.